Hello, Thomas. How are you on this Thomas Thursday over at Kentucky Downs?
Oh, I'm ready and waiting.
Yes,
Had,
waiting is
had a good
the
morning
operative
in
word. Waiting
Doncaster,
means
so had a
a little
nice
bit of
morning. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
a little bit of late data changes from Kentucky Downs, kind of setting us back a little bit. So hopefully we'll be on target today.
Cross our fingers.
Well, last time we did Kentucky Downs last week, I come to a conclusion that maybe we're talking about what's the right way to bet that track, and I come to the conclusion that maybe the right way to bet that track is to do a bunch of 10-cent superfecta boxes.
Yeah, it certainly pays well.
Yeah, last week when we did it on Thursday, between the two of us, we had a couple of our picks where the superfectas came into play. And for 10-cent boxes, I think one of them paid $300 and another one paid over $400 for a dime. So those are some pretty big ones, and we had them.
Yeah.
Speaking of we had last night, we had a really good time on the Horse Center with trainer George Allen Bryant. I don't know if you had a chance to catch that, but it was probably one of the most entertaining shows that we've had. If you don't know who he is, you want to tune in and watch. He was telling a story almost like a movie about how he and somebody else who he didn't want to name, but he named anyway, came up with a plan to use these offshore track things where they have smaller pools. And they were able to use it and sort of manipulate it, I guess, into a way of actually getting their accounts worth seven figures, but it ended up getting confiscated. It's a really interesting story. Funny guy, entertaining guy. Make sure you check it out. One that you got to root for. Says he's not a trainer yet. He's 23-0, 23 races, 0 wins. So, but he's an air quote trainer until he gets that first W. So you can watch that here on Horse Racing Radar TV. If you hadn't have a chance to check that out, please do. I promise you, it's one that will entertain you for certain. All right, Tom, let's get cracking on the show today with Kentucky Downs. Of course, the first race at Kentucky Downs is the one that we're going to start with. Race one. Hold on. Before that, we got some comments in here. Mohammed saying, what's up? Muhammad, how are you today? Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Race number one at Kentucky Downs is let me put it up on the screen here. It is a 6.5 furlong on the turf race. They have a whole bunch of 6.5 furlong races on the turf today. So it's one that you're going to want to pay attention to, one that you're going to want to see how the bias plays out, because you're going to get a lot of chances to play 6.5 furlong races. So far, meet to date, they've had 23 of them. 17 were one off the pace, two of which went wire to wire. Only one winner from the rail. 2 and 3 get a bonus. 4 through 7 a penalty. 8 plus the same bonus as 2 and 3. And Tom, we have our worksheets here today to kind of keep us busy in race number one. We do have a couple of scratches in race number one that might impact the outcome of the race. We're talking about the 2-horse, a little bit of a late pace there, the 9-horse, the 4-horse. The ones that are in here are squared, meaning the 5-horse should get a pace that it's comfortable with near the front. The same with the 10. The 4-horse, also some interesting extra ink, getting a plus with the late pace numbers, as well as the 0-1, meaning it has the best combination of early pace and late pace. So this horse that has a lot of giddy up and go at the end might be enough at a track where closing matters to be the difference. You don't have the 4. You and I don't agree on a whole lot today, so it should be an interesting day.
That doesn't surprise me, because I looked at some of my picks and I'm going, what the heck am I picking? But with that, in the first race, I'm taking number 11. Parsing Nancy is my top choice. Comes off a claim at Churchill for 30. Got into this race. It's got 4 works that look good, and they're going to change the equipment and take the blinkers off. In its 3 out of its 4 races, it's shown speed and won at Turf Way in a hard-fought battle in April. Absolutely nothing in that non-winners of 2 at Churchill. Then they put it into a claim, and it got claimed. So from that, I had to go take a little look at the sire and mare on this one because of its limited. And interesting, on the mare side, she was a Pennsylvania bred who basically ran her career there. But one of her offspring actually raced in Russia, of all places, on the turf and at top-level company. So kind of a weird PA bred ending up in Russia. So with that, number 7, Condiment Girls, my next choice. One at Keeneland, first start on the dirt, going 7. Showed good pace, and then the next start, it went the wrong way. It finished sixth. It was back, way back, and then it's had a break since May. I like the works coming into this, but they're at a private track, and I want to note that sometimes those can be deceivingly good or deceivingly bad. Private tracks, I think, are almost impossible to get an idea of the works
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, unless you've got you've seen them regularly, and this is one I'm not familiar with. So I like the drop back in distance. She appears to be more of a sprinter, and based on the breeding, yes, I think a sprinter. And I'm definitely looking for a price on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I took number 5, T Olive, as my final choice. Very strongly in all its races. I mean, it's got a first, a second, third, and a fourth. At first asking, layoff, got fourth. Then it's got another layoff in a Belmont race, ran second, and you get the pattern. It's just one of these horses that it's obviously they have to lay it off, or something goes wrong. And it is a Wesley Ward horse, but this is one of those horses that is definitely not a first stringer. But it also has no turf races, which I find very interesting. And on the sire side, he hasn't produced a lot in the way of turf horses, mainly the dirt. But the mare side, she was actually pretty good New York bred, and she placed in some stakes races and ran very well. So that's why I'm going to go with those 3.
Charles says race number 1, the 11 is scratched, Thomas. So you got anything behind the 11? I'm behind the 5. So just going to go 7-5 then?
Yeah, I just go 7-5. I didn't catch that.
All right.
One. That must be
So, Mohammed, just to send, do we have you see the horses here with the BBs on them? That means best bet. So Tom's best bet's in race number 9 with the 5 horse. Mine's in race number 10, with the 12 horse. So maybe a best bet daily double to close out the card at Kentucky Downs. Again, I think Kentucky Downs is one of those tracks that's difficult to go vertical, although we will go vertical with a pick 5 and a pick 4 because the pick 5s pay just too much money. I think the one on last week paid, what, 39,000 or something?
Yeah, well, they've been averaging over 34,000. So, yeah, there's you kind of hard not to play them. Especially if you've got a few at prices.
Yeah, you catch a long shot in there. One day where you make 39 grand, you're going to be pretty happy. So for me in race number 1, I'm going to start with Pistol. Should be close to the pace, and as I mentioned in the workshop for the worksheet, does have a late pace advantage. It is the first time on the grass for the horse, but does have the second best pedigree numbers for the surface. Number 6, Laugh and Play, is the only EP horse in the field, meaning it can stick off the pace. If it's too hot, get on the pace. If it's too slow. So that should give it a tactical advantage. Does have the top pedigree score over the 4 horse. And Irad Ortiz is riding, and I don't know if you've been keeping up with Irad the last 2 days at Colonial Downs, but I think he won every single race. It just feels like that. I know he didn't, but I think he had 13 mounts, an ungodly number of wins, and only one of them were out of the money. So he's really on fire. Ride the hot hand while it's hot. Number 10, Sonicus is another first-time turfer in here. Improved in each of his last couple of races in the later part of the race. So I expect you'll see some late run out of the 10 horse. And then finally, number 5, T Olive, one of the few picks Tom and I agree on in the first couple of races here. Does get out of the gate pretty quickly. My concern is that you have a lot of pace in this race, and he tends to fade late. Long shot for Charles in race number 1 is the 3 horse. So keep that in mind when you're doing your selections. If you have any picks too, like Charles, or any comments like Charles and Mohammed, please share them with us. It is a community. So, we don't have, unfortunately, a monopoly on all the good picks. We don't even have picks we agree on today, Tom.
So we definitely are all over the place.
So race number 2 is a maiden race as well. This one is for $150,000. Again, 6.5 furlongs. As we mentioned, on 6.5 furlongs, most of which were won from off the pace. You probably want to stay away from the rail. Surprisingly, the 2 and 3 do okay. 4 through 7, small penalty, but just basically the rail is the post position that hurts. There is no pace worksheet on here because too many first-time starters, Tom. So how are you going to do this baby race?
I'm going to take number 7. True Prodigy is my top choice. Nice works. I like that 1 minute and 2 breezing from the gate at Churchill Downs training track. This is one that is definitely bred for the turf. And the young sire here has had more than a few winners so far. On the mare side, she was a graded stakes place horse. She did win at first asking. She raced them 37 times. The foals that she's produced, she's got four that raced, and two are winners, and they're both winners on the turf. Number 9, Spanish Doubloon is my next choice. Not much, running 5th in that 7-furlong race, but better effort before at Ellis. Ran 3rd, showed some speed. It went off the favorite, so somebody liked it. Sire again, good turf pedigree there. Mare won twice, but ran twice. She never won. But and her foals, she's got 4 of them to race and only won one, but they won on its first asking. So I think coming back to the turf will help this horse. And number 4, Sundance, will be my final choice. Good early speed. And that went the other way badly. Lost by 14 lengths. Strong works the training track. Like the switch to Joel Rosario, who was the top rider last year at Kentucky Downs. And this one could be the winner.
Fantastic. So Charles says in race number 2, the 6-horse scratched last week to run in today's spot. Neither one of us has the 6-horse. Again, mark that down. Our good friends at Spot Play say, hi, Tom and Rich. Happy Kentucky Downs Thursday. Posted the pace sheets that we've been using. Have a great day. So you can get those over at Spot Plays on Twitter. Make sure you took a look for that as well. For me, in race number 2, I'm going to start off with number 4. Where you end off, I begin. This one is, I actually have the 6-horse as my 5th pick in here, Charles. Maybe I should move it to my 4th pick. You know what? I'm going to do that, Charles. I'm going to let Charles sway me. And I'm going to put the 6-horse in here because it was the next pickup for me. So I'm going to go with Sundance as my top choice here. Trainer Rodolphe is hitting at 23% with second-time career starts. And for me in this race, I'm just straight up playing trainer angles for the conditions. He has robust early pace numbers and was decently bet in his debut. The 5-horse Murky is a trainer Wesley Ward horse who wins at 29%, which is a big number for first-time starters. Iconicus, trainer Wayne Catalano, in second grass goes 14 times in 2022. So not a whole lot of data points there, but still managed to win 6 of them, which is a big number as well. 6 out of 14. I'll take that. And it's probably going to go off at a big price. And since Charles likes the 6-horse, says it's scratched specifically for the spot, was a tough call for me between the 6 and the 3. I'll just go ahead and take Charles' advice, put the 6 in there, and hope to have share a winner with my man Charles. For sure, Mohammed. Today, course number 1, 5. You have no comment. For which horse? Race 1, number 6? In race number 1, I did talk about the 6 in race number 1, right? I did say in race number 1 that the 6-horse Laugh and Play is the only EP horse in the field with the top pedigree score. Race number 3, and the next is another 6.5 furlong race, Thomas. This one is a optional claiming 62.5. Again, probably outside. You want to have a closer. That's been the post position bias. Race number 3, we return to our pace worksheets. Again, we had a scratch in here with the 2-horse getting knocked out of the race. Got 4 boxers in here, so I like these 4 horses. I think each one of these has at least 3 of them have a good case that you can win. The 7 is the first appearance of a left arrow horse, typically a pressure closer type who likes to either sit off the pace or close if the pace is too fast. Normal early pace will put him in the middle of the pack here. The 5 and the 8 are both horses that have enough early pace to put him near the front. But interestingly, with the 8-horse, he does have a plus late pace advantage, meaning if he's a length behind, can make that up in the stretch pretty easily, and also has a combination of the early pace and late pace that's 5 points better than the next horse. So looks to me like this might be the 8-horse's race to win, Tom.
Yeah, but I'd throw all that out because these are 2-year-olds. And at this point, don't have enough to go on.
I agree.
At least for me, I don't think there's enough to go on with 2-year-olds running in an allowance race. So basically, they've won, but that kind of thing. And a lot of times they go backwards rather quickly. With that, I took number 7, Smoking Lightning, as my top choice. It won at Press Dial. Its first out went wire to wire, but it also had a really tough race. It was a head-to-head most of the race with another horse.
You don't worry about that maybe being too tough of a race?
No, because it went out next race at Woodbine and in a turf stakes and ran second at 62 to 1 and came from behind this time. So a little different strategy there. I think it's well placed for the win here, and it gets the top jock right now at Kentucky Downs. With that, number 5, Tadachero is my next choice. It won its first start at Lone Star, leading. It led all the way and really didn't have any issues, and they thought enough of it. They took it up to Prairie Meadows, ran second in a stakes race, but it was frankly no match for the winner. But nobody has been so far. This is an Iowa bred who's undefeated, and they're talking Breeders' Cup with that horse. He's been working out at Remington, and so it'll be a first try on the turf, and it looks like it should like it, and picks up Florent Giroux for the mount. Finally, I'm going to take number 3, Limited to Oro is my final choice. Won at first asking at Belterra. It was impressive, and frankly, and then it laid it off. Has 3 works coming into here at 35 and 3, sticks out, and they backed off of the next 2 works. I'm going to take a price shot on here because this is a horse that should like the turf. And frankly, that first race, I don't care about the track. I care about how it won. And being a 2-year-old, it won nicely.
So for me, I like the 8 horse in here. I spelled out a lot of reasons why, though Tom smacked me down. 2-year-old smacked down. Anyway, the horse did come out. It happens. I'm smacked them left, right. I turned the other cheek. This guy, Stud Lovin', won his debut by 7 3/4 lengths. Was well bet. Does have the top turf pedigree score in this group by a decent margin. Smoke Lightning is my second choice, which is a left arrow horse closer that should move forward today, dropping in from a non-graded stakes race where he missed by just 3/4 of a length. You made some mention of that. Kind of surprised you don't have the 6 horse in here, Tom. Panama, a little bit of Van Halen music and just a little bit of rich trivia. And it's how old I am. But when they filmed that video, they filmed it in Philadelphia at what used to be the Spectrum. I was actually at those shows. Anyway, comes in from England, was bet very well in both races. Both were on a good surface, so I think it should take to the Kentucky Downs tracks. It looks like this horse is one that can rate or close, which does very well at Kentucky Downs. And then finally, number 5, Tadachero, whatever, working well for his first race since early July. Finished a well-beaten second, as you mentioned, in that non-graded stakes last time out. This might actually be a step down in competition. Got a couple comments in here. Pace, let's see. Pace plays. Pace could get brisk. The 8, 5, and 7 only concern is who runs with the 8 on the front. Well, as Thomas said, you never know what these 2-year-olds, what they're going to do from race to race. And then Charles says race number 3, 8 looks like a single and multiple race picks to Charles as well.
Yeah, not for me. And I, frankly, with Irad on these track on the Kentucky Downs track, I look at him my way he rode at Ascot, which was not very good. And this is not that far off. And he's never really had a stellar meet at Kentucky Downs in the past. So that does not impress me at all. If it was a flat track like Colonial or one of those, and it had the horse here, makes me a little more cautious. And the way he rides may not really suit for this.
Well, the one thing we know is if he has the lead, you're not passing him.
No,
I don't care if you're on the left or the right. He's going to cut both of you off somehow.
Yeah, he's going to figure out how to win it.
All right, so race number 4, interesting, Thomas, as it is a battle of long shots. You've got the 9 horse. I've got the 5 horse. Interestingly, you also have the 5 horse in your pick, so it's got to give me a little boost of confidence. Again, 6.5 furlongs. You want to be on the outside. You probably want to be a horse that has some tactical speed as well. Looking at the pace worksheet for race number 4, we did end up with a couple scratches I think could to some degree impact the outcome of this race. The 8 horse was one that could provide pace. The 6 horse was one that could provide pace. The 10 is still in. What am I doing with the
10's
10?
in.
So yes, I don't know what I'm doing there. All right. So that two of the horses that could produce some of the early gas, though, are out of this race. The 10 horse is the one now that's left with a box around him. So it's likely to be your pace setter when the gates open. But here again, we see a left arrow horse with the 5, meaning this is a horse that does have some giddy up and go. So it can close. Also is the horse that has the most in terms of the ability to to combination of early pace and late pace. But also interestingly here, the 7 horse, when we look at these late pace numbers, I haven't seen this before, has a plus, 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 and a slash. It means this just has as many as 20 points more late pace than any horse in the field. Probably the biggest advantage that any horse has in here, Tom. How do you see this race playing out? That's also your, well, you don't have that guy in your picks. So wrong race. There we go.
Well, we should point out that this is a restricted race. It's for $250,000, and these are horses that were purchased at the Keeneland yearling sale. So there is some, you can only, if you're not in that, you can't be in this race. So it makes it really interesting in that way too, because you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I took number 9, Rhythmic, one last time out by 6 lengths at Canterbury. It did a lot of its racing between horses, which for a 2-year-old to do that and win is, to me, unusual. That was a dirt race. It should like the turf. It's got the pedigree for it. It picks up James Graham, and I think that one's got a lot of potential. And I think that's why it's my long shot play. Number 10, Carib. Later, I don't know. See you later, maybe. I don't know. Fourth try, won at Saratoga, made it all the running on the turf, and really good speed number. Comes back off a fast work at 47-2 breezing. I never complain about the outside at turf at this track because you see the numbers and how many win from the outside. It's got some speed, and I think it's going to have a chance there. Number 5, Wilco is my final choice. Is Irish Bred, who interestingly enough, went through the Keeneland yearling sales, which is kind of unusual, I think. It's not won yet. He's got thirds. Both efforts were at Saratoga and at Keeneland. This is a Wesley Roar trained horse, taking the blinkers off, which is not unusual for him to do if the horse is not winning. Because normally his 2-year-olds all wear blinkers in their first race, and then they make the decision whether to take them off. Well, he did this one twice before taking them off. So I'm thinking the second choice here, even though it's not one, but this kind of restricted race, I think a maiden has as good a chance as any of them.
Well, I'm going to go with number 5. Your stop, my long shot, Wilco, as I mentioned, is a left arrow horse. Does also have the tie for the top pedigree score. And what I like is in that last race, the horse did put out some better fractions. Number 4, Mustache, was well bet in a hard-fought debut win. I'm not usually a fan of the maiden special weight risers, especially as they go way up into class like today. But trainer Victoria Oliver does hit at 29%, which is a good number following the maiden win. So obviously Victoria is very good at placing her horses post, or at least judging where they fit in that respect. Number 7, Angel of Empire. As I mentioned in the pace work sheet, this one has one of the biggest late pace advantages I've seen from any horse in any of the analysis that we've done recently. That was only based on the debut, so you don't know that it's going to do that again. But I also like that August 27th workout at Churchill Downs being the fastest of 98. So I think you're going to see an improved horse here. And then finally, KB See You Later, the 10 horse. I guess that's what that says. Did run the top last race speed figure. Trainer Joe Sharp wins the second grass race at 30%, though I'm not positive speed's going to be the best fit for Kentucky Downs. But Charles says look out for speed today. He thinks the speed will hold later on. So we'll see if indeed Charles is on to something there. He also thinks in race number 4, all about the 10 horse getting the lead early and wins wire to wire. So Charles backing up his thoughts that speed will be the way with his plays as well. Race number 5, Tom, we finally break away from the 6.5 furlongs. This one's 7 furlongs, optional claiming 62.5. And so far, the profile of a 7 furlong winner, they've run 3 races. Every single one of them was won from off the pace. You have a win from posts 2 and 3, 4 and 7, and 8 and out. The rail hasn't found their score yet in the 7 but it's only 3 races, so it's kind of a meaningless data set in that respect. And in race number 5, this is when we got a ton of scratches in this race too, right? All the AEs got knocked out. I don't know that really I changed the outcome of the race that much because none of them really factored in here. I noticed that a lot of these horses in here do have pretty similar late pace figures. So probably a big pack of horses running together at the end, and whichever one has the most late legs is probably going to get the job done. Maybe gives it a little bit of advantage to the horses that are going to be up front. The 6, probably your pace setter. The 9 should be close behind. The 5 horse is another left arrow horse, a closer with enough early pace. Doesn't have to try hard to move forward relative to where it normally is. So maybe you're going to see some horses that get to the front. They all have similar late pace, have an opportunity to do what Charles thinks they'll do, get to the front today and have a chance to score. Race number 5, we do agree on the 11 horse. And again, after that, not much.
Yeah, well, I took Pyron as my top choice, number 11. He ran in the stakes last time out at Colonial. And it was an even effort, but not, he hasn't been, but his last 5 races have been all in stakes, including graded stakes winners. Graded stakes. He did win one on the turf at Fairgrounds, but to get him into this race, they have to put him into a claim. So do not be surprised if this horse gets claimed. And I think with Rosario up for Albert Stahl, it's a nice combination and a nice place to get a win, but I think they're going to lose the horse. Number 12, Awaken is my next choice. Has absolutely no turf experience, but it bred to be a good turf horse. And, you look at its record. It got in the money 8 times out of 14 starts and has won 3 of those. Not much in his last race, but he won the one before at Churchill. I also found it interesting that the morning line on this one is 4-1, and it's a Mike Maker horse. He is using IRAD. Number 8, Unified Report is my final choice. Good works in this race, and they're consistent works. Last a third at Churchill, and it was an optional claimer for 80. He was wide most of that trip, and he really wasn't a threat to win, and then they put him away.
Mm-hmm.
He won his first 3 races of his career as Louisiana bred. He won those without any problem. Then they got aggressive. And, of course, when you do that, usually it's not necessarily a good thing. I think this is a good spot for him. He's won at the 50 level. To me, you got to watch out for him.
Yep. Well, I think in these races, you got to watch out for just about every horse because it seems like, as Sean says, he views it as a casino racing, like it's more of a casino than it is, handicapping. But I think it gives you an edge if you're a little bit better at handicapping, because maybe you'll find something in there. All right, for me in race number 5, I'm going to start off with the 10 horse Super Design. One of the things that we both agree on is sometimes a little bit of history at Kentucky Downs might be a positive in here. The horse did run once at Kentucky Downs and was his best performance by far. And the horse tends to run well fresh off the bench like today. Number 7, Light Fury, been on the turf 12 times and been in the money, in the trifecta in 10 of 12 with 5 wins, 2 seconds, and 3/3. It's also the second start with trainer Eddie Kennelly, who wins at 18%. And I think this horse could be better second off the break. Number 11, Pyron. It is interesting to me that the 11, that Joel Rosario, gets off of the 10 to ride the 11. Which I almost think, that almost made me reconsider putting the 10 as a top pick there, especially since Joel won on the 10 last time out. And then my final selection here in race number 5, that is the 6 horse, and the 6 horse is 4 Left. This horse is one that's coming off the break, does have a couple of good races on the turf course, does have some pretty solid turf pedigree. And the horse has also run okay fresh like today. It also, Tom, is the end of the opening. Let's see, race 5. Hold on a second here for Charles. Race 5, watch out for the 3-horse stretching out for this horse and fast. The distance is not a concern at all for Charles. On the 3-horse in race number 5, a horse that neither one of us have, but I think you could probably take 11 people.
Sucks. The post absolutely sucks.
Yeah, those inside posts are pretty tough there.
Yeah.
But I think you can take 11 people and come up with 11 different horses in a lot of these races.
Yeah. I think that'd be very easy to do.
Mm-hmm. So at today, we are still doing vertical bets. We have our hot dog pick 4 where we have a $20 budget. Tom in race number 2 he's going to go 2-2-2. He's doing the Noah pick 4, 2x2x2 all the way through. I'm going to single that 8-horse in race number 3. I'm going to try to hopefully catch some prices around it. My ticket's going to live or die. It's just a big win bet on the 8-horse, essentially, in race number 3 for me in our hot dog pick 4s. Race 6, this one is going to start off the late pick 5, which will have our picks 4. We go back to 6.5 furlongs, Tom. That's, again, you want to be kind of a, probably tactical speed, probably an outside post. Race number 6, our pace worksheet looks like this. Got a couple different ones today because there's so many deep fields. I couldn't, in my handwriting, if I get too small, I can't keep track of what I'm doing. Again, we have some scratches in here that could impact. They absolutely impact the race shape here because the 2-horse was one that's probably going to be the pace setter. The 5 and the 8 we're going to chase. They're no longer there. So the 1 and the 3 won't have to work as hard to get the lead as they need before. And you see here the 9, the 3, the 10, the 1, the 8, the 7, pretty much every horse that's left minus the 8 in here, they all have pretty tight LP late pace range in there. So I think the ones that get tactically well positioned are likely to have an advantage over the rest. Tom, take us away on who you think is tactically advantaged here.
And again, this is that tight restricted race again. It's for $250,000. The 2-year-olds that were in 2021 were in the September Keeneland yearling sale. So there is some restriction to get into this race.
Mm-hmm.
With that, I took number 10, Up to Something, because I think it is up to something, because it ran a good race in the slop at Ellis and rallied past and rallied up and then went right past him. Yep, dirt race, but now the turf. But he's definitely bred for that turf. Top sire, winners, and more winners. They won on all surfaces and stakes winners. The mare is also great at stakes placed in her career, and she's produced winners. I like the outside, the good works, and I think it's ready for a nice top effort here.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, Showgirl Lynn B is my next choice. Winner of her last 2 races, sitting behind the leaders and then waiting for it to straighten out and then goes. The second race was a minor stakes race and did well. Both races, though, are on the all-weather, but the breeding says she should love turf. Picks up Florent Giroux for Robert Hess, and I think it's going to be a nice horse in this race. I think the favorite will be my final choice, which is number 8, Grand Oak. Ran second in its first start and in the mud at Keeneland, and I think it was a really good effort because it came right back. Won on the turf by 4+ lengths and really was challenged in that race. Then, like a lot of them, they get aggressive, and they shipped her to Royal Ascot for the Queen Mary, and she beat 3 horses in a 21-horse field. Yeah, not so good. Last out, ran a Woodbine. Got a nice 4th in a stakes race, came off that layoff. She definitely has tactical speed. She can be challenged. She can be near the front. I think I don't know. I really thought this was going to be the favorite, but other people say otherwise. But I'm got to put them in because it has run some nice races.
So Chris Parmalu says, I think you might get some pace in that race in both closers, the 6 and the 10 at double-digit odds. I agree with Tom. So Chris staking his claim against me. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate the support, but you know what? I'm like a duck. The water just rolls off my back. I actually like to be at the top of the hill with the hyenas chipping at my heels there. All right, so for me, this is race number this is my box it up, race number 6, where we put 4 horses together. And then exacta box, trifecta box, and superfecta box. I like the four horse here in Showgirl Linby. Did win a minor non-graded stakes in its last race, undefeated in 2 races on the all-weather surface. Between all-weather and off-dirt, they can be an indication as to how a horse will take to the turf the first time around. Got a lot of speed in here, and this horse has some of the best late pace numbers, although the speed picture did change a little bit. Number 1, Promise of Hope, is trying grass for the first time. Been well bet in both starts. I think you got to toss out that last graded stakes start and run back to debut. Number 3, Move It Up, Baby. I think this one is one that benefits from all of the speed scratches in this race. And then finally, number 7 is my final choice. It's a horse that is just a neck away from winning both of its first races, coming in from a $80,000 maiden special weight at Del Mar. So clearly facing some pretty positive horses there. Gets Joel Rosario. That is my box it up for today at Kentucky Downs. So, a lot of these races are really unpredictable, so it makes it kind of difficult. One of the things that is predictable is that the professor, with the picks from the professor, is going to have a fantastic baseball bet. The guy so far in his plays of the day, 68 wins, 42 losses, 2 ties. You're looking at up 21 units basically for a positive 15.4% return, which is fantastic over the course of a baseball season. You'll see a link in the description down below here at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While you're here, kindly hit that subscribe button. We're just a few people away from 2,000. We appreciate all the support. Also, make sure there's a link to his daily shows over there, because the professor also does college football. So far in college football, 2 plays for the play of the day, won them both. There's nothing wrong with picking sports picks and being 2-0. I think you'll agree with me on that completely there, Mr. Thomas. Also, just a quick point of note, Sean, myself, and Jared tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern will cover the NFL if you're an NFL player. Tonight, the only one of us that has a pick is Sean on the opener. He's going to put 2 units on the Buffalo Bills to cover the 2.5 points. I'm leaning the Rams. Jared's leaning the Bills. As far as the total is concerned, all of us are leaning the under. So our Swiss Army Sean will post all of that over on Horse Racing Today. Horse Race, the number 2 day on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All right, back to the races. Race number 7 is 1 mile. It's a maiden $150,000 race, Tom. And so far at 1 mile at the Kentucky Downs course, 22 races, 14 of which were won from off the pace. Only one of the 14 managed to get to the front and stay in the front. So far, for the post positions 1 through 3, you have 1 win each, and both of them. So inside, as Tom has mentioned quite a few times today, really struggled at that distance. You also have a big bonus from post 4 through 7, 8 and out, a little bit of a penalty. And I wrote down that this is an anything can happen race, Tom, in race number 7, because you have a bunch of first-time starters in here. You have some scratches. Let's pull up the pace worksheet here. You can see, too, so the 4 horse is kind of one that is kind of off on an island by itself as a pressure horse. Doesn't really have the best early speed numbers, but doesn't really need to have the best early speed numbers because wants to sit behind the pace. It looks like, notwithstanding the first-time starters, the 7 and the 10 are the ones that are going to push to get to the front. You have all the also eligibles getting knocked out of here. All of these horses down here are first-time starters. No idea what they're going to bring to the table. So far, the 12 horses never been close. Woo, this is an anything can happen race, Tom. Tell me what you think is going to happen.
You know what? I didn't think it was anything could happen because this is one of my singles in the pick 5. I took number 11, Wet Paint. I like the very good works coming into this race. The sire has produced, more than a few good horses, and he was a Breeders' Cup Classic winner. But more importantly, the mare side, she was a turf winner, and she placed in graded stakes races at a mile or greater. This is a Florent Giroux, Brad Cox team up, and this is Godolphin owned. And they were the leading owners here last season, and they have not run a lot of horses here yet. Next one is number 7, Stay Loss. First start was a nice mile and a 16th at Saratoga. It ran 6th, but it moved up mid-race and just didn't have enough to finish. And that's my classic needed a start angle. Works on the turf at Saratoga to prep for this race. Again, the sire is a Breeders' Cup Classic winner. They produced many turf winners. The mare was a turf winner in New Zealand, and her other foal to race was also a turf winner. The trainer is not won any races in this country yet, but this is Aidan O'Brien's son, and he does train very well. Finally, number 4, Mend We Stand is my final choice. Ran a mile on the dirt, first asking, ran second. I thought it was good. Stayed behind the leaders, but couldn't get to the winner. I think the turf move is better because it's the sire is a turf champion. He's produced a whole bunch of winners early in his career. The mare's won twice. She ran on the turf. Second foal. This is the second foal to race, and the first foal that has never raced. So I think there's really interesting bunch of horses in this race, and it could be, well, that's why I went with number 11. Went Paid as my top choice.
So I want to say thanks to Bruce Coffey and then Kate Rapp Cunningham and William Baird. So William Baird, like one of those like investment houses, for giving us the thumbs up on Facebook. If you like what you're seeing today, too, please give us a thumbs up. As I mentioned, subscribe. You see all of the socials rolling down below. While you're here on YouTube, hit the like button as well as the bell. So when we do bring some programs out, you'll be notified. We do a lot of stuff around here. Introduce you to a lot of personalities. Again, if you didn't catch the show last night, you're going to want to watch that. That's a fantastic horse center. For me in race number 10, I view it differently, Tom. I view it as an anything can happen race. Tom views it as a single, but we'll get to that single in a little bit. I like number 10 as Stellar Lady as my top choice here. Better early in the last race in terms of those pace numbers. So as mentioned before, Craig Milikowski from Timeform US told us, pay attention to the 2 and 4 furlong pace numbers. When they improve, it's usually a sign that a horse is improving. Off that improvement, the horse did run the top last race speed figure. Trainer Kenneth McPeak hits at, you ready for this number, Tom? 41% in the second turf try. That's ridiculous. Number 4, Mended We Stand. Pressure horse, which, as I mentioned in the pace worksheets, kind of out on an island by itself over there, does have the top late pace figure in the field. And when you combine it with early pace, does have the best early pace and late pace combination. Chris knows a little bit about that. There were some issues in the debut debut race that if she can straighten out, I think this one could take it to the leaders, to the winner's circle. Your single, number 11, Wet Paint, looks like the top first timer to me in here as well. Thomas, you have trainer Brad Cox and Florent Garou as the jockey trainer combination. It's a winning combination, but it also produces a very small but positive ROI of 13 cents. And then number 2, my final selection in race number 7, Don't Go Changing. This one got off to a pretty crappy start in its debut and then followed it up with a really nice late push. So I think all the 2 horse might need to get the job done in this spot today is a little bit better start than it got in the other one. And then going back in this spot here, Charles, race number 7 says, pay attention to the 6 horse first time starter, ready and fit Tappet horse with Brendan Walsh and Tyler Gaffleone teaming up on this horse for a reason. So mark that down in your books as well as a horse for your consideration. Again, if you have any ideas that you like here at Kentucky Downs or any track today, if you've got a horse single that you think is an absolute must play, share it with us. It's a community. We're all looking to try to find more winners no matter where they come from. Race 8 is a mile on the turf, Tom. Again, 1 mile on the turf. If we take a look at the profile of a winner, 22 starts, 14 of which, not surprisingly, one off the pace, only one going wire to wire. Again, it looks like the inside struggles, so you kind of want an outside horse in there as well. And if we take man, I hate when does this ever happen to you with your mouse when you're trying to go from page to page and it kind of just like doesn't do anything?
Yeah, it goes nowhere.
Yeah, I hate that. And it just makes me feel like, like when I'm telling my dog to do a trick and it doesn't do it. Here again, we have all the also entries or the alternative entries, also eligibles, however you put it, all of them scratching out. So I don't know if that really changes the pace of the race much. The 6 horse, I do think, is a significant scratch because it did have the top combination of late pace, early pace, and was a left arrow horse. The 4-horse now takes over that spot. Probably the 4 and the 12 would be ones that are forwardly placed, probably more than people might anticipate. And if they have any late kick to them, could have an opportunity to get a really nice trip in this race. Tom, how do you see race number 8 playing? Hey, hold on a second here, Tom. We agree on the one that's going to win. Something is wrong.
That means we're in big trouble.
It means run fast as you can away from that 10-horse.
Yeah, well, I took the 10. Last race was in January. Lost by half a length and an optional Claimer 35. You know, it 1 second. I mean, they've been running in 1.5-mile races. Not quite sure why, because they claimed it for 80, and they put it into another 1.5-mile race, and don't know why. Layoffs coming into this race. There are 3 that are really stuck out to me: the 1:01, 59-2 breezing, and a minute breezing. And then they did some maintenance works on this horse. The drop in distance, I think, is a good thing, as I said. And it has 2 wins. And if you read the conditions of this race, it shouldn't be in this race. But because it ran in a $25,000 claimer at Santa Anita, it gets in. So it can have 2 wins because it's $40,000 or less are counted against you, are not counted against you. I think it's a good spot for a Mike Maker horse, and the layoff, he generally has them ready. So nice spot. 5, Happy Boy Rocket is my next choice. To say his last race was awful is being nice. So I tossed it, and it was, just bad effort. He's had some poor efforts in graded stakes races, but better in other races. No turf experience, but the mare side says he should like the turf. And I like the combination of Bill Mott and Joe Rosario off some good works. And yeah, that's a nice combination. 10 Asher, number 7, is my final choice. This is a 3-year-old. He made his debut by winning in Indiana by 5 lengths. It was a really strong wire-to-wire bid. It was on the turf. This is a son of Curlin, and he does produce a few turf winners, to say the least. And I put him right in there because I think coming off that win really shows that may have something special here.
So I also going to start with number 10, One Night Standards. Some people don't have any, but yeah, so what? At the distance 3 times, a couple of wins, no seconds or thirds in there. Today, the horse is coming off the bench. The past performances say that when the horse gets a little bit of time to rest, does pretty well coming off the bench fresh, and does have some decent maintenance works getting ready for the spot today. Number 12, Mazuma, is my second choice. I'm not the biggest fan, as I mentioned many times, of horses that are rising out of the maiden ranks, especially after 5 tries. But when you look at this horse in the race to race, it's a very consistent performer. Those numbers are very much on par with anything else that anybody else has put together in this race. So I'm gonna kind of scratch off that rule for me today for the 12 horse. Number 1, Mr. Tip. Horrible post position. I hate the rail. If this horse was outside, it probably would be my top choice. But I know that you don't like Irad running uphill, Tom, but I think right now it's kind of hard to write him off. And this one missed just by a half a length in its only Kentucky Downs run. So the horse does like the track. Also likes the distance, going out 6 times, 1 win, 2 seconds and a third. And you mentioned a lot of reasons why I like the 7-horse Penner Ash as my 4th choice in here. Our next race, Tom, is a best bet. You know what else is a best bet for tonight, Tom?
Nope, I don't.
To make sure you tune in. I know you're going to be at the Brewers game. You're not going to be there, but myself, Sean, and Terry will be putting together picks. If you like the Kentucky Downs madness, we'll be doing there's 3 $1 million races Saturday. We'll be making our selections at 9:30 p.m. for all of those $1 million races at Kentucky Downs this Saturday. Again, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. The best way to make sure you don't miss it is subscribe, follow us on our social media. Race number 8, Charles says he likes the 12-horse, should relish the surface, and change to the top jockey. All right, so we're on agreement with something there. As I mentioned, race number 8 and number 9 coming up is Tom's best bet of the day. Again, this race is the 1 stakes race on the Kentucky Downs card. It is the Global Tote Juvenile Sprint for $500,000. back to 6.5 furlongs, Tom, where you want to have some ability to tactically be placed, close. And then from there, if we look at our pace worksheet for race number 9, I think some scratches in here again, probably not really altering the race a little bit, but I do think could impact the early pace some, because with the 4 and the 8, you are going to have a lot of horses on the front that want to giddy up and go. That number comes down a little bit. The 2 horse now looks like the one that's going to be on the lead. What's interestingly, it was the speed of the speed to begin with, might not have to work as hard, does have the second best late pace figures, tied with, a little bit better than the 5 horse, but sandwiched behind the 6. So the 2 closers do have some late pace, Tom. You like one of those closers as your best bet to upset the prohibitive favorite.
I do, and that's number 5, Private Creed. Had a really rough race last out, got bumped several times in the running, and still ended up 3rd by a half a length. Won its maiden at Ellis by sitting behind the early pace and with a really strong move. They're going to add blinkers today, and I think that is partially because of the bumping issue. And Rosario, as we've talked about before, leader ride last year in this, is back here to ride, and I think this is a good one. Number 2, Sharp S Tack is my next choice. We got 2 for 2. Won a stakes at Monmouth by 7 last out, and won a maiden at Santa Anita by 2.5. But that was a much rougher race than the Monmouth race. Did go wire to wire in that race. It's got some nice preps, and the 47-2 certainly at Keeneland is one you got sticks out, and definitely the one to beat. But again, it's got that inside post, which never thrilled about at Kentucky Downs. Number 8, Half a Chance is going to be my final choice. It won its last on the dirt, showed some nice speed, and then it went. It's really looks interesting going into here. Flashes speed again for and if on the turf when it ran next time out, and then Wesley Ward, that was the first time out, I should say. Wesley Ward is leaving the blinkers on this horse. What really stuck out to me is the 2 different surfaces that it ran on. It ran identical speed numbers, which I find, and they were good speed numbers. So again, that 8 hole I much prefer, but they are 2-year-olds, and who knows what'll happen.
Yeah, never can tell, right? So hopefully we can pop ourselves a price in there. For me in this spot, I'm going to start with the 2 horse. I think that the 2 horse is Sharp as an attack, not really going out on a limb here. It's going to be the heavy favorite. I think the scratches actually help this horse in here. Undefeated in a pair of races, did run much better fractions last time out in race number 2. Did run the top last race speed figure by a decent amount. So this horse is either going to have to regress, which is possible, 2-year-old, or the other horses are going to have to come up, which again is possible because they're 2-year-olds. Private Creed, the 5 horse, the second choice here in the lone stakes race on the card. Better times last out, does have some of the most late kick in the field. The field was filled with a little bit more early speed last time out and before all the scratches. So I do, maybe some of that advantage is muted. I also like the 6 horse here in my third choice. That one is Accident. It does have the top late pace figures in the field. I still think there's going to be a lot of pace up front. And if there's a lot of pace, some horses could get discouraged, opening up the door. This is the proverbial Tom horse. Can he win? Probably not. But I think because of the fact that he's got some strong late pace, probably does help close out the gimmicks. The 1 horse, Bourbon Therapy, which is probably some of the best therapy people can get from time to time, did win last time out and broke its maiden in the 4th try at Indiana Grand. Not the biggest fan of the Indy Grand to Kentucky Downs track. Some horses that run in those tier 2 tracks versus horses that run in the tier 1 tracks maybe not perform as well. But I do like the fact that Michael Maker does hit at 14% first time out with a new horse. I also like the fact that he wins at 16% when the horse has been away for 40 to 60 days. And the workouts in here, the last one was pretty impressive, 9th fastest out of 63. But again, I hate the rail draw for that horse. Final race of the day, Tom, is your box it up. That's race number 10. Race number 10 on the card is a mile and 5/16, completely different length than what we've talked about at all today. They've run 7 of them, if you can imagine. 5 were one off the pace, but there's something that the 2 that didn't win from off the pace have in common, Tom. You know what it is?
They got that left arrow.
No, they went wire to wire. They may have been left arrow horses. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oddly, at this distance so far in the 7 races, the rail and the 8 and out have gotten bonuses, 8 being better than the rail, 8 and out. 2 and 3 have been fair. 4 through 7 also have been penalized in our pace worksheet for the last race of the day. Race number 10 over here. Again, you see, this is one where the pace setup could be really favorable to horses that kind of have an advantage, because all these horses over here have wanted to close. The 13, also eligible, knocked out of the race. The 10 horse, which was one of 2 PC horses, which I thought would have a big advantage in here, he's knocked out of the race, or she. It's leaving the 12 horse. The 3 horse is a left arrow horse, a pressure horse that has the early pace. That's, my mouse is doing this funky thing again, Tom. Pressure horse, that's probably going to be your pace setter. The 10 and the 12, the late paces were a plus over the rest. So with the 10 scratching, the 12 now has a distinct late pace advantage over the rest of the field. Tom, close the show with your box it up for race number 12.
I'm going to, and I'm going to take number 6. 5 prizes, my top choice. Has 8 tries, 2 seconds, and a third so far. Tried the turf once at Saratoga. It was as a 2-year-old. It was over a yielding course, and that was in August of last year. Bunch of dirt tries were better, but again, last ones have been at distance and not so good.
Mm-hmm.
So why pick? Blinkers are coming off. She's run better in the past without blinkers. The breeding says she should like turf. This is a Todd Pletcher horse. He is using IRAD. So ironically, I am picking him. But this is the kind of horse that Todd Pletcher would normally be dropping into a maiden claiming race. Because, they get to a point and they say, okay, we're done. And they're not, which is kind of a surprise. And that's why I really think it's got a great chance here.
Mm-hmm.
They must know something. So with that, number 3, Suffice, is my next choice. 1 race in Belmont. Okay effort. Closed from, had some nice early pace, and then had absolutely nothing. But that was in November of 2021. Layoffs, good works, changed the trainer, better effort. I see it as a better effort. And this is one that should like the turf. Number 4, Paris, Kentucky is my next choice.
I had a friend who lived in Paris, Kentucky, Thomas, and he was a professional bass fisherman. How many people do you know that were professional bass fishermen?
None.
It's kind of a niche job for sure, right?
Yeah,
it got to be fun as hell.
And do they have betting on that one too?
I think they actually do. They have, like, I forget what it's called, but it's like the Bass Super Pro or something at the end. Bass Masters, it's called, at the end of the year. I think you can actually bet on it. There are lines of who's going to get the most weight. It's actually kind of. I went to one. They had one here at Bass Masters in Chicago when Kevin was fishing here in Chicago. When they had the Bass Masters, and it's actually fun. Surprise! I thought, fishing, it's going to be boring, but it was actually a lot of fun. If you had a chance to go to one, I would recommend it. Sorry to interrupt you, but go back to Paris, Kentucky.
That's definitely interesting and something I never considered. This one ran, number 4 ran to the back of the field again, which is normal for this horse. Moved forward and ran 4th by 3.5 lengths. Today, the blinkers are going to come off. And that was a one and done try. They put the blinkers on last time, and that didn't work out so well. So let's take them off. We've got 12 starts, 1 second, a couple and 3/3. I'm going to try again on this one because I think the longer race, and with the style of the late running, I think it will be right in there someplace. And then finally, I'm going to take number 12, who I think will be the favorite in this bunch. It's got a 4th, a 3rd, a second. It's been moving up. Nice race at Colonial, much better last time out. Had some bumping issues, but it was gaining. The 12 shouldn't hurt any as long as it handles that first turn. And you got to put it in there.
Absolutely, 100%. You got to put it in there, Tom, because it is my top choice in race number 10, the 12 horse. I know Charles says that you can just single up the 11 horse and go call it a day, race number 10. Single the 11 and call it a day, baby. But I'm not going to single the 11. I do have him as my second choice, Charles. I'm going to start with personal best with the 10 scratching. It is the only PC horse in the field. And as I mentioned, with the 10 closing, now acquires a plus late pace advantage. So if the horse is within a length in the stretch, should be able to run by them all. A lot better late in his last race, has the top late pace figures. And what I also like in terms of this horse is it has a bullet workout in between races. Indication to me that the horse is sharp and ready to roll. Number 11, Quality Star. Charles is single, did run the top last race speed figure. Another that should have some of his best effort in the end, but was a lot better early in the last race. Finished second by a neck. And our Chris Parmalu of Spot Plays, that's one of his lovely angles. He says works great for him in maiden races, and that's putting horses that finish second in the start before, finds that they're winners over and over again. Thank you for sharing that research with us, Chris. We appreciate that. And again,
except the Kentucky Downs.
Well, I mean, maybe that matters. But make sure you head on over to Spot Plays over on Twitter. Check that out. He has a link to all of his bubble charts that they do. Fantastic visuals. And when you're at a place like Kentucky Downs, every bit of information that you can help to maybe weed out a horse or add a horse that you weren't thinking of, I believe is very helpful. Also, the 12 horse for me today, Charles, is my best bet. So like that. So here he is saying best angle in the business. All right.
Except the Kentucky Downs.
Except the Kentucky. Tom is just slapping everybody around today. I don't know.
Yeah,
Tom.
well, Kentucky Downs is Kentucky Downs. I mean, we've seen way too many weird things happen there. And all you got to do is look at those pick fives.
And I'm wondering if you had some Cocoa Puffs or some sugary cereal for breakfast this morning. You're a little spry.
Yeah, well, again, you're covering tonight the Kentucky Downs Stakes races. A number of those were moved because of the weather issues they had. So it is a kind of a rich card. But then again, what day of these are not rich races. I mean, and we're seeing that for sure. And there is not one, and as far as I'm concerned, there's not one that I would call easy.
No,
you can sit there and point out one and go, yeah, that's going to win, no problem. And I haven't seen one of those yet.
Well, I'm glad that you say the rich races and you're giving them ownership to me. I appreciate that. Hopefully I have ownership of my picks today. I like number 3 as my third choice in the race. Number 10, Suffice. Left Arrow horse, been off since November. If she comes out with the same early pace as she showed in her debut, should have the lead after 6 furlongs. The only question is, will she be able to hold on as the race stretches out another 6 furlongs? Solidarity, this one scratched into the final spot for me as my best bet to close out. And I do think a lot of, not my best bet, in my race with the best bet to close out. The late pick 5. Let's see, where can you watch? That's a good question. If you can have an account over at like Twin Spires or whichever one of the TVG. FanDuel. So if you open up an accounts with them, you can watch the races for sure. You're gonna like that.
You want to pay RTN?
Yes. Well, RTN, I'm not going to say that you shouldn't do business with them, but we reached out to them to see if they'd be willing to work with us, so that when folks ask questions like, "Hey, where can I watch the races?" we can say, "Hey, go to RTN and watch the races." You can sign up. I think it's like $5 a month or something. But anyway, wagering sites, yeah. So all the wagering sites will have them. So. But when they kind of came back with a rude response to me, I'm not the biggest fan of telling you to go over there, but I can't tell you what to do. All right. Finally, the box it up was Tom's. This is also the late pick 5, which Tom and we said, despite the fact that vertical bets are hard to hit at Kentucky Downs, considering they pay $39,000, you know what? You got to step up. You got to see if you can hit the 95-mile-an-hour fastball, even though you think it's coming at your head. Here is our prime rib pick 4. Tom is not going prime rib. Tom is hot dog all day today. $22.50, Tom.
Well, I figured if I'm going to hit it, I want to hit it with a minimal of work, so to speak, numbers wise.
Well, minimum outlay. I went $90. I have a couple of weak points. Race 6 is a weak point. Race 9, I feel like the 9, you have to single someone somewhere. With the scratches, I do think that 2 horse in the stakes race does have a decided advantage over everybody else. Then I try to go deep in the two races where I felt like anything could win. So that's the strategy behind my ticket. Again, here are all of our picks today at Kentucky Downs. Tom's best bet is in race number 9. He's going to try to beat that 2-horse. My best bet's the following race, number 12. Tom has a long shot in race number 9, as I do, with the 5-horse in race number 4. So it is a battle of the best bets for sure. Tom is walking live shot. Love it. For me, our box it ups are in race number 10 for Tom, race number 6 for me. Again, $1 exacta box, 50-cent trifecta box, 10-cent superfecta box. We'll see how that works out. And of course, if you're Charles, thanks guys. Good luck to you, as we appreciate your input and your selections as well. If you like what you saw, again, please subscribe, hit the like button on Facebook and on Twitter, the more and on YouTube. The more we get, the higher we go in the algorithms. That's always a plus for us. And tonight, later on, if you're going to bet at Charlestown tonight, the one place that you want to go to get your picks is going to be a guaranteed tip sheet. There is a link in the description. You'll see it down below. You'll see that Charlestown is the free track today. Click on Charlestown, and you will see that a 99-1. Now, you can't say we just take favorites over there. A 99-1 is our top choice in Charlestown, race number 1. So we're treating Charlestown as if though it's Kentucky Downs, Thomas. Today, make sure you check that out. Again, tonight, we'll be back with Terry and Sean and myself to cover the $1 million races this weekend. Chris, I don't know, Chris, where are you going to do your spot plays this weekend? Put that in the comments for me. You'll find that over on Horse Racing Radar TV as well. He and Eddie C put out their spot plays, horses that they think have
right?
I don't know they're going to do Charlestown. They'll probably tell us where they're going to do them. And then finally, tomorrow, Tom, you and I will be back to cover some real foreign races. We're going to be on Doncaster and the Curragh. Tell us what we're covering.
We are going to be looking at some 2-year-old races and some older ones, and also some of the impact that may have on the Breeders' Cup. And that's why we're looking at it. We only skipped one race that's at the Curragh on Saturday that will have some Breeders' Cup that has Mistriff and a couple others of the top horses running. So that one's worth a glance just because of what breeders, where they could end up.
And
with that, I was going to add in that are we going to cover next Wednesday's Kentucky Downs craziness?
Is that the last day?
That's last day, 14th.
All right, we'll do Wednesday then for sure. I'll switch up with Charles, who usually goes on Wednesdays, and he'll come on Thursdays. Keep an eye out for Charles, because he's going to team up with the Arizona Downs. What do you want to call it? MC, the person who analyzes the races over there, and they're going to do all of the Breeders' Cup win in your win races going forward. So you'll see that too here on Horse Racing Radar TV. I think, Tom, that winds up everything.
Foreign races too.
No, they're just going to do the ones here.
Oh, domestic. Okay.
Yeah, domestically. Yeah, they're not going to go overseas. So they're just doing the winning your in Breeders' Cup on this side of the pond, as they say. So again, thanks for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, please hit us up on all of our social media sites, subscribe, hit the bells, whatever it is that you got to do. You guys probably know better than I do what you need to do there. Join us tonight, tomorrow. Again, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we do shows at 12 o'clock covering the track of the day, Tom. I think that covers just about everything, although I feel like I forgot something. Oh, yes, tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern, if you do like NFL, Sean, myself, and Jared will be back to make our picks. Follow the picks with the professor for Saturday's college football, all the major league action. I do think that covers everything, Thomas. Any final thoughts of wisdom before we get out of here?
Good luck at Kentucky Downs.
Yes. I think at that track, sometimes luck is better than good.
Yeah. It can be a ball buster.
Yes, indeed. No matter what it is you do today, whether it's at Kentucky Downs or you're busting rocks or balls somewhere, whatever you're doing, like Tom today, just busting balls all day, smacking Chris and I around. And Charles, we appreciate that. We hope that you have a blessed day, and that most importantly, that it ends up in the
winner's circle.
Absolutely. Tom and I will see you tomorrow and Foreign Friday. Have a fantastic Thursday and great luck at Kentucky Downs.